I died, choking on my own blood, the metallic tang flooding my mouth as the cold asphalt of that Seattle back alley bit into my cheek. Betrayed by the man I called brother. Stabbed in the gut by a knife he'd sharpened himself. All for a secret that wasn't even his to keep. But death. It wasn't the end. It was a goddamn reset button, slamming me back into my 25-year-old body on the morning of my 26th birthday. Heart pounding like a war drum. The calendar on my kitchen wall mocking me with a date, July 15th, 2019. 1 year before the knife. 1 year to unravel the lies, expose the rot in my family, and make them pay, starting with the ghost of a memory my grandfather had buried deeper than his own regrets. The first thing I did when I woke up in that cramped Capitol Hill apartment, sunlight slicing through the blinds like Judgment Day, was puke. Not from the disorientation, though that hit like a freight train, but from the flood of it all crashing back. Every betrayal. Every whispered promise broken. Every night I'd spent staring at the ceiling wondering why my life felt like a rigged game. I was Harper Voss, the golden girl who'd clawed her way out of a trailer park in Tacoma to a junior associate gig at one of Seattle's cutthroat tech firms. Ambitious. Yeah. But loyal to a fault. That's what got me killed. My half-brother, Ethan's same dad, different moms, had sold me out to our family's dirty little empire. Voss Industries wasn't just some mid-tier construction outfit. It was a front for laundering money from God knows where. And I'd stumbled onto the books just months before my murder. But this time, no more playing nice. I wiped my mouth, splashed water on my face, and stared into the mirror. Same hazel eyes, same freckles dusting my nose like forgotten stars, but now they burned with a fire that hadn't been there before. You're back, bitch, I muttered to my reflection. And they're gonna wish you weren't. The hook of it all was that single memory, the one Grandpa had let slip in a drunken ramble years ago, before dementia claimed him. I'd thought it was just old man nonsense, him muttering about the boy who wasn't mine while clutching a faded photo of Dad as a kid. But now, piecing it together with the clarity of the grave, it hit like lightning. That memory wasn't random. It was the key to everything, the betrayal that started it all, the secret that made Ethan hate me enough to end me. I grabbed my phone, fingers flying over the screen. First call, Mom. She picked up on the second ring, her voice all syrupy concern from her McMansion in Bellevue. Harper. Honey, everything okay? It's early. Yeah. Early for her, probably mid-yoga or whatever kept her Botox fresh at 52. Mom. I need to come over. Today. It's about Dad. Silence. Then a sharp intake. She hated talking about him. The man who'd bailed on us when I was 5, leaving her to raise me on waitress tips and spite. But Ethan? He'd gotten the golden ticket, private schools, the family business, because he was the legitimate son. Or so we thought. By noon, I was pulling into her driveway, the rain-slicked streets of Seattle mirroring the storm brewing in my gut. The house was a monument to her reinvention. White picket fence, hybrid SUV, and a husband number 3 who sold real estate to tech bros. Mom met me at the door, blonde highlights framing a face that could have been mine in 20 years if I didn't watch it. What's this about your father? Harp. She led me to the kitchen, pouring chamomile tea like it could fix family fractures. I sipped, letting the steam curl up like smoke signals. Ethan. The company. And Grandpa's stories. Her hand froze mid-pour. Your grandfather was senile at the end. Forget it. But I couldn't. Not anymore. That memory Grandpa revealed in his nursing home haze. The one no one else knew because they'd written him off as crazy. It was about Dad not being Dad at all. A switched at birth mix-up. Or worse, an affair that birthed Ethan from the wrong side of the tracks. Voss' blood wasn't pure, it was poison from the root. And Ethan, that scheming prick with his Ivy League polish and crocodile tears, had known. He dug it up, used it to blackmail the old man into handing over the company keys, then pinned the fall on me when I got too close to the ledgers. We talked, or rather, I grilled her for hours. Mom crumbled like wet cardboard, admitting she'd suspected but buried it to keep the lifestyle. Your father. He wasn't who we thought. But Ethan? He's family. Harper. Blood or not? Blood. The word tasted like rust. By the time I left, the sun dipping low over Lake Washington, I had a plan. Step 1. Infiltrate. Get back into Voss Industries, this time as the wolf in sheep's clothing. No more wide-eyed intern. I'd be the fixer they couldn't afford to lose. That night, I dreamed of the alley again. Ethan's face looming. His whisper, "You should have stayed out of it, sis," as the blade twisted. I woke sweating, the clock glowing 3:17 a.m. Time to move. I fired off an email to HR at Voss, eager to discuss rejoining the team, fresh ideas for compliance. They bit within minutes. Desperation. Probably. The feds had been sniffing around their contracts for months. And with Dad's 6 feet under from heart failure, stress-induced suicide after the secrets hit. They needed all hands. Week 1 back at the office was a masterclass in restraint. The building squatted in Pioneer Square, all glass and steel pretending at transparency. Ethan greeted me in the lobby, all boardroom charm in his tailored suit, clapping my shoulder like we were allies. Harper, back from your sabbatical? We missed your fire. Sabbatical. Cute spin on my nervous breakdown after Dad's death. I smiled, teeth gritted. Missed the grind. Let's shake things up. Up close. He looked older than 30, lines around his eyes from lies. Not laughter. That night, I hacked his email. Child's play with my reborn know-how. I'd memorized the passwords for my first life. The files spilled out like entrails, emails to offshore accounts, payoffs to inspectors, and buried deepest, a DNA report dated 5 years back. Grandpa hadn't been wrong. Ethan wasn't Dad's biological son. Some fling from Dad's wild days in Vegas, covered up by the family lawyer. And the kicker? Ethan had used it to coerce Grandpa into signing over controlling interest, then staged Dad's suicide to silence him. My murder? Collateral when I audited the wrong file. Rage boiled. But I played it cool. Controversial decision number 1. I slept with the IT guy, a nerdy kid named Riley who'd always had a crush. Not for fun, for access. His login got me into the secure server, downloading proof that could torch the whole operation. But as I lay there afterward, his snores rumbling like thunder, guilt gnawed. Was I becoming them? Betraying innocence for the bigger kill? Screw it. This was war, and wars had casualties. By month 2, the tension was a live wire. Board meetings turned into minefields, Ethan's eyes flicking to me like I was a glitch in his matrix. He cornered me after one. In the executive washroom, the marble echoing our breaths. You're digging too deep, Harper. Family sticks together. His hand on my arm, firm. Warning. I shrugged it off, heart hammering. Family? Like how you stuck that knife in Dad's back. Or mine. His face paled. Just a flicker. But I saw it. The seed of doubt planted. I leaked a tip to an old contact at The Stranger. Seattle's alt weekly. Anonymous. Of course. Voss Industries, building empires on dirty foundations. It ran small, but it buzzed. Investors pulled back. Clients whispered. Ethan raged in the next meeting, slamming fists on oak. Someone's sabotaging us. I kept my head down, but inside, ecstasy. The payback was just starting. Grandpa's nursing home was my next stop. The place reeked of bleach and regret, fluorescent lights buzzing like angry hornets. He sat in his wheelchair by the window, staring at the sound as if it held answers. At 82, dementia had hollowed him out, but flashes remained, like that one memory he dropped on me during a visit in my first life. I'd been 23, fresh out of college, venting about Ethan edging me out of an internship. Grandpa had gripped my hand, eyes sharp for a second. He ain't blood. Girl. Switched in the crib. Or close enough. Your grandma knew, begged me to fix it. But I buried it. For the name. Then fog rolled back in. I'd laughed it off, thinking Alzheimer's tall tales. Now. I knelt before him, voice low. Grandpa, it's Harper. Remember the boy who wasn't yours? His eyes cleared. Just for a beat, milky blue locking on mine. The memory. No one else knows. Your daddy's real son died young. Ethan, that boy's mama, was a showgirl. I covered it to keep the shares. But he found out. Blackmailed me. The words tumbled, fragile as ash. Forgive an old fool. Tears stung. This was the buried secret. The original sin. Ethan's entire life a lie, built on Grandpa's cowardice. And mine? Ended because I'd inherited the real Voss legacy, the one that threatened his throne. I left with a stolen keycard from the admin's desk, controversial move too, identity theft to access his old files. Back home, I pieced it, birth certificates, falsified adoptions, a trail leading to the family lawyer, Silas Grant. Dead now. But his widow, very much alive, and chatty after a bottle of Pinot at her Queen and Brownstone. Silas regretted it, she slurred, waving a manicured hand. Ethan threatened to expose the affair. Your father never knew. More fuel. But as I drove away, the weight settled. Revenge wasn't clean. It was dragging everyone down, Mom's denial cracking, Riley ghosting me after figuring out the hack. Even innocent employees sweating layoffs. Month 5, the climax brewed like a Pacific squall. Ethan called a family summit at the old Voss cabin on Whidbey Island, the one Dad had loved before the lies ate him alive. Rain lashed the ferry ride over, waves slapping the hull like accusations. Mom was there, tense in cashmere, Aunt Lydia. Ethan's mom. All fake smiles and pearls, and Ethan, king of the castle. Fire crackling in the stone hearth. We're bleeding, he announced over venison and merlot. Feds circling. We close ranks. I nurse my glass, timing it. When he stepped out for a smoke on the deck, I followed. The wind howled, salt spray stinging. You killed him, I said, voice steady. Dad. And me, in that alley. For what? A fake birthright, he spun, cigarette dropping, eyes wild. What the hell? Harper, you're unhinged, But I had the printouts, DNA. Emails thrust under his nose. Grandpa told me everything. The switched baby, the blackmail. You're not Voss. You're a fraud. He lunged, hands around my throat, the deck railing digging into my back. I'll end you again. Black spots danced. But I need him hard. Gasping air as he crumpled. Mom burst out, screaming. Chaos erupted, Aunt Lydia dialing 911, the ferry horn moaning in the distance. Cops swarmed the island by dawn, cuffing Ethan as he spat venom. She's lying. Family hysteria. But the evidence? Ironclad. The feds swooped. Voss Industries crumbling in headlines. Tech empire built on deception. Heir's murder plot exposed. Twist came in the interrogation room footage. Leaked to me via a sympathetic detective. Ethan, broken, confessed not just to Dad's staging and my murder, but to something darker. He'd known about the baby switch since teens. Fueled by rage at being the bastard. But the real gut punch? Grandpa hadn't just buried it, he'd orchestrated it. To secure the bloodline, he'd paid off hospital staff for the swap, dooming Ethan's real brother to obscurity. My father wasn't blood either. I was the outsider, adopted quietly to fill the gap. The memory Grandpa revealed, a half-truth, his guilt manifesting as a lie to absolve himself. In the end, it wasn't happy. Ethan rotted in Supermax. Mom sold the house to pay lawyers. And I walked away from the ruins, starting a small consulting firm in Portland. No empire, just truth. But as I stood on the Columbia River Gorge one crisp fall day, wind whipping my hair, I felt the weight lift. Revenge hadn't healed, it scarred. Yet in the quiet, I heard Grandpa's voice. Forgive an old fool? Maybe. Or maybe forgiveness was the ultimate twist, choosing life over the grave's echo. The fallout from Whidbey hit like a Category 5 through Seattle's underbelly. Voss Industries didn't just crumble, it imploded, taking chunks of the city's construction scene with it. Subcontractors stiffed. Projects halted mid-frame, condo towers frozen like skeletons against the perpetual gray sky. I watched from afar, holed up in a no-frills Airbnb in Fremont, the kind with exposed brick and a view of the ship canal that smelled faintly of diesel and regret. My phone buzzed nonstop, reporters sniffing for quotes, old colleagues begging for jobs, Mom leaving voicemails thick with sobs. Harper, come home. We can fix this. Fix it? Like patching a bullet hole with tape. No. This was my design. Every leak a calculated cut. But victory tasted like ash. That night, after the cabin showdown, I'd sat in the back of the squad car with Mom, her head on my shoulder, whispering apologies for sins she'd never committed. I knew about the DNA thing. Suspected. But Ethan. He was my stepson. I protected him. Protected. The word curdled. In my first life, that protection had extended to covering for his temper. Bruises on interns explained as clumsy accidents, whispers of harassment swept under the rug. Now, with cuffs chafing his wrists, the floodgates opened. Women came forward, the paralegal he'd cornered in the file room, the accountant fired for rejecting his advances. Controversial Decision 3. I amplified their stories. Anonymous tips to the press. Empowerment or exploitation. In the mirror of revenge. The line blurred. Riley tracked me down a week later, showing up at the Airbnb with takeout from that hole-in-the-wall faux spot on Aurora. Skinny as ever. Glasses fogged from the rain. He looked like a kicked puppy. You used me. Harper. No preamble. Just those 4 words over steaming bowls. I set my chopsticks down, the broth's spice mirroring the burn in my chest. I did. And I'd do it again. Voss was poison, laundering bribes from Russian oligarchs, cutting corners on safety that killed workers. His eyes narrowed. So what? You play God? Hack my life for your vendetta. We argued till midnight, voices echoing off the troll sculpture outside. He left, slamming the door, but not before dropping a bomb. Ethan wasn't the only one dirty. Your dad? He greenlit half those deals. Before the suicide. Sleep evaded me after that. Dad's ghost loomed larger now. Not the saint I'd mythologized, but a flawed kingpin who'd built his kingdom on compromises. In my reborn haze, I'd romanticized him, the absentee father who'd send birthday cards with crisp hundreds tucked inside, promises of making it right someday. But the ledgers I'd audited in life, one told a different tale. Kickbacks to union busters, falsified environmental reports for waterfront developments that poisoned the Duwamish. He died knowing, probably, that Ethan was unraveling the threads. And me, the dutiful daughter, piecing it together too late. I needed air, so I drove south to Tacoma, roots calling like a siren song. The trailer park where Mom and I'd scraped by was gone, bulldozed for a strip mall peddling vape shops and dollar stores. But Grandpa's old bungalow stood defiant on a hill overlooking Commencement Bay, weeds choking the driveway. The realtor had listed it cheap after his death. Ironic, since the property was the last untainted Voss asset. I bought it sight unseen, cash from my severance, figuring roots might ground the storm inside. Unpacking unearthed relics, Dad's high school letterman jacket, yellowed photos of Grandpa in his Navy days, and a lockbox under the floorboards. Heart thudding, I pried it open. Inside, letters, yellowed and brittle, from Grandma to Grandpa, dated 1975. The switch was a mistake. Harold, the real boy, our blood, deserves the name. But Ethan's mother threatened scandal. Pay her off. For God's sake. My hands shook. So it was true. Not a hospital flub, but deliberate. Grandpa, the war hero turned tycoon, had engineered the swap to strengthen the line, dooming an innocent kid, Ethan's actual brother, to foster care oblivion. And the memory he'd revealed to me? A sanitized version. Guilt edited for a granddaughter's ears. Deeper in the box, a birth certificate, forged clean, listing me as adopted. Sealed records. The twist within the twist. I wasn't Voss by blood either. Mom's affair. A one-night stand with a coworker during Dad's long hauls. She'd married into the family to legitimize me, but the secret festered. Ethan had discovered both his own bastardy and mine, using it as dual blackmail ammo. No wonder he'd hated us both. We were mirrors to his fraud. Nausea hit, but so did clarity. Revenge wasn't about blood, it was about the lies we'd all swallowed. I drove to the prison next morning. Supermax in Walla Walla, the arid east side, a world away from Seattle's damp embrace. Visiting hours were a farce, glass partition, intercom crackle. Ethan looked hollowed, orange jumpsuit swallowing his frame. The fight drained. What do you want? Harper? Glowed, his voice tinny, eyes dead fish. I leaned in. The full truth. About the baby. And Dad. He laughed. Bitter. Grandpa's pet project. He wanted a pure heir for the board. My real brother? Some kid in Spokane. Probably flipping burgers. I found out at 18, confronted the old man. He bought my silence with stock options. A pause. Gaze sharpening. Your mom? She knew. Helped forge your papers. We were both accidents they fixed. The drive back blurred through tears and fury.
Mom.
My rock. My confessor. She'd lied not just by omission, but commission. Controversial decision 4. Confrontation. Raw and unfiltered. I showed up at her yoga studio in Bellevue.
Mid-class.
Downward dogs frozen as I burst in. You forged my life. The room gasped. She paled, leading me to the office amid stares. Harper.
Please.
It was to protect you from the scandal, the judgment.
Judgment.
American as apple pie. That fear of the neighbor's whispers. You made me a pawn. Like Ethan. She collapsed into her chair, makeup streaking. I loved you. Still do. But the Voss name. It was power. Security. We didn't reconcile.
Not then.
I left her sobbing, the studio emptying like a bad omen. But the tension coiled tighter. Reporters hounded now, dubbing me the Voss whistleblower. My face splashed across Como News. Offers poured in, book deals, podcasts, even a Netflix true crime pitch. I ignored them, focusing on the real work, testifying to the feds, unraveling the laundering web that snaked from Seattle ports to Cayman banks. Riley reappeared in November, Thanksgiving Eve, as rain sheeted the bungalow windows. He'd quit IT, started a cybersecurity firm. Missed you, he said over pumpkin pie from the store.
No.
Over truth serum, bourbon neat. We talked till dawn. Vulnerabilities bared. I was scared, he admitted. Of the darkness in you. I nodded, tracing the scar on my palm from the alley fight. It's still there. But maybe. Lighter now. We kissed tentative, like testing storm clouds. Hope, too soon. But a spark. The holidays brought the big twist shadow. Aunt Lydia, Ethan's mom, reached out via a burner phone. Meet me. Lake Union. Lunch. Paranoia prickled, but curiosity won. She looked ravaged, once glamorous showgirl, now a husk in Chanel knockoff. Over salads at Ivor's. She slid an envelope. Silas's files. The unredacted ones. My pulse thundered. Inside, proof Grandpa hadn't just swapped babies. He'd killed for it. The real Voss heir, Ethan's brother by blood, drowned in a boating accident arranged by Grandpa to tie loose ends. Lydia's eyes brimmed. I was paid to disappear. Raised Ethan on lies.
But you.
You're the innocent one. Innocent? The word mocked. Armed with this, I went public, not for splash,
But surgery.
a press conference in Pioneer Square. Snow flurrying like confetti from hell. Voss wasn't a family, it was a cult of secrets. Generations of murder. Fraud. Erasure. Cameras flashed, gasps rippled. Mom watched from the crowd. Face ashen. Ethan, from his cell, sued for defamation, futile, with the files authenticated. But the real climax? Internal. That night, alone in the bungalow, I burned the letters. Flames danced in the fireplace, consuming the past. No more chains. I called Mom at 2 a.m. Forgive. Her voice cracked. If you can. We met for coffee next day. Tentative bridge over abyss. Riley joined. Hand in mine, a quiet anchor. Revenge's end? Not fireworks, but embers. Voss dissolved. Assets seized for victims' funds. I testified. Ethan rotted. Grandpa's ghost absolved in my mind. The memory he revealed? A lifeline. Flawed but true. In the new year, as cherry blossoms budded premature, I stood on Tacoma's hill, bay glittering. Life, too, wasn't redemption, it was rewrite. And for the first time, the hook released. Spring 2020 thawed Seattle slow, like the city itself nursing a hangover from the Voss scandal. COVID whispers were just starting. Hand sanitizer in every lobby. Masks dangling like nooses, but my world had already gone pandemic, isolated not by virus, but victory's vacuum. The bungalow in Tacoma became sanctuary, walls papered with case files I'd pored over like scripture. Testifying against Ethan's cronies, mid-level execs who'd looked the other way for bonuses, felt less like justice, more like exorcism. Each cross-exam, I'd lock eyes with the judge, some grizzled vet from King County, and spill the bribes funneled through fake nonprofits, the safety violations that buried migrant workers under collapsed scaffolds. They died for profits, I'd say, voice steady. Juries nodded. Verdicts landed hard. But inside, hollow cheers. Riley stuck around, surprising us both. We turned the bungalow's attic into his office, servers humming like distant thunder. Cyber vigilante partners? He'd joke, coding anti-fraud tools while I drafted op-eds for the Seattle Times. Controversial Decision 5. Go public with my resurrection. Not literal, too fringe for American pragmatism, but the metaphor. A TEDx talk in an empty auditorium. Virtual crowd of thousands. I died inside and came back fighting. Screens glowed with my face. The alley scar faded, but visible under makeup. Betrayal isn't a plot twist, it's the American dream's dark side. Family empires built on bodies. Views spiked. Hate mail too. Traitor bitch. Voss loyalist forever. But the emails that mattered? From daughters of the dead workers. Thanking me for names on plaques. Mom's thaw was slower. Our coffee meet stretched to weekly brunches at Metronome. Over avocado toast and black coffee. She'd aged a decade in months. Crow's feet deepening. Laugh lines etched bitter. I was scared.
Harper.
Of losing everything. Everything. The McMansion. The status. The illusion of control. I'd nod. Fork spearing eggs. You lost me instead. Truth bombs. Served sunny side up. But layers peeled. Her own Tacoma youth. Abused by her father. Marrying dad for escape. The forge? It was survival. For you. Forgiveness flickered. Not full flame. We hiked Discovery Park once. Trails muddy from melt. Puget Sound crashing below. Grandpa's memory, I ventured. The one about the boy. She stopped. Ferns brushing knees. He told me too. Before you were born. Warned me to keep quiet. I did for the family.
Family.
The word evolved. Shrinking to us too. Aunt Lydia vanished after the files drop. Rumor had her in Reno. Waitressing at a casino. Ghosts finally catching up. But her gift lingered. The drowning report. Yellowed police blotter from 78. Accidental, it read. But the coroner's addendum screamed cover-up, bruises on the victim's arms. Inconsistent tides.
Grandpa.
The architect. I hired a PI. a grizzled ex-cop named Torres, to track the real heir. Turns out, Ethan's brother, born Tommy Ruiz, had survived Foster Mills. Now a mechanic in Spokane. Mid-40s, tattooed knuckles, and a Harley that roared like unresolved rage. Meeting him was electric, same jawline as Dad. Hazel eyes mirroring mine. Over beers at a dive bar off I-90. He grunted. Never knew. Thought I was just bad luck. I slid the file across scarred Formica. Your Voss. The one they erased. His laugh barked. Don't want it. But the truth? I'll take a check for the old man's sins. We sued the estate, not for millions, but restitution. Courts awarded him a settlement. Enough for a shop of his own. Watching him ride off, leathers creaking, felt like closing a circle. No brothers reunited, just ledgers balanced. Ethan wrote from prison, letters smuggled via a guard's cousin. You win,
Sis.
but blood tells.
Blood.
I'd laughed, crumpling it. Mine wasn't his, none of it was. Summer heat wave baked the Northwest unusual. Mirages dancing on 405 asphalt. Riley proposed on a whim. Hike to Rattlesnake Ledge. Ring from a gas station vending machine. Silver band etched reset. I said yes, laughing through tears. The city sprawled below a healed scar. Wedding was small. Mom in the front row. Torres as best man. Tommy toasting with root beer. To fucked up families he raised glass. Cheers echoed off the gazebo in Volunteer Park. Cherry trees shedding pink confetti. But twists don't die easy. Fall brought the biopic pitch, Hollywood sniffing. Some producer from LA with a beard like a lumberjack and eyes for Oscar bait. Your story's gold. Reincarnation vibes. Corporate intrigue. I passed. But they adapted anyway. Empire of Lies. Starring a ingenue with my freckles. Directed by a guy who'd done Big Little Lies. Premiere in Toronto. Reviews mixed, gripping, if sensationalized. The controversy? They painted Grandpa heroic. Me vengeful harpy. Protests outside theaters. Boss victims demand accuracy. I skipped it. Binging bad TV with Riley. Our first kicking inside girl. Due spring. The real climax hit quiet. Thanksgiving 2021. Family dinner at the bungalow. Table groaning under turkey and fixings.
Mom. Tommy.
Even Lydia, flown in from Reno. Sober 6 months. As pie steamed, Grandpa's ghost hovered. I pulled the unburned photo from the lockbox, him cradling baby me, eyes soft. The memory he gave me, I said.
Passing it.
Thought he forgot. But it was the only truth he owned. Mom teared up. He loved you fierce. Us all. In his way. Lydia nodded. Cowards love hard. Ethan's last letter arrived then. Postmarked Supermax. Parole hearing next year. Testify for me. I burned it unread. Ashes swirling up chimney like releasins.
No.
The cycle broke here. Years blurred. Daughter named Ellis. After grandma, toddler tantrums and first steps on Tacoma Hills. My firm grew, consulting for ethics boards, exposing white-collar rot from Portland to Boise. Riley's app went viral, flagging fraud in real time. Mom downsized to a condo, volunteering at women's shelters, atonement in action. Tommy's shop thrived, sponsoring at-risk kids with Harleys and hope. One dawn, Ellis on hip. I stood by the bay. Salt wind tousling curls. The hook of it all, That death in the alley. The reset faded to echo. Revenge? It had been necessary surgery, carving out the cancer. But life? The happy twist. Not flawless, but fiercely mine. Grandpa's memory. The one no one else knew, it wasn't curse. It was compass. Forgive the fools. Fight the lies. And in America's grind, rain-slick streets, boardroom battles, family fractures, we rebuild. Stronger. Unbroken. As the sun crested, gilding waves gold, I whispered to the horizon, we made it. And for the first time, I believed it.